No Guilt, Just Growth. I'm Kristen Pomper, wife, coach, and corporate working mom of two. I help ambitious working moms stop running on empty and start building lives they're obsessed with, without the guilt or burnout. I'm on a mission to redefine what success looks like for moms, because one thing I know for sure, it's not about putting everyone else's needs above your own. If you're ready to stop surviving and start thriving, you're in the right place. Hey gal, welcome back to another episode. Today we're talking about the one habit that builds trust with your kids. It's not a new parenting technique. It's not a chart or a system. It's something that's so simple, yet really challenging at the same time. It's honoring your word. I've been thinking a lot about how trust is built in relationships, whether it's in your marriage or in your friendships or even in business. I feel like in marriage, we trust our spouse when their actions align with their words. When they say they'll be home at 6 o'clock and they actually walk through the door by 6, or when they say that they'll stop at the grocery store to grab that one item that you just forgot to pick up, and then they actually come home with that ingredient. You don't have to check in on them or remind them. That's trust being built. In friendships, I feel like it's when you tell your best friend a secret and she actually keeps it, or when she shows up when she says she will, when she listens, not just when it's convenient, but when it really matters. And then I think about in business, we build trust through consistency and follow through. I know for me, when a client asks me a question that I don't have the answer to, I'll say something like, hey, admittedly, I don't know, but I will find out and I will follow up with you tomorrow. And then I actually do. Crazy. What a concept. But that's credibility. Every time that you deliver on the consider it done moments, you're reinforcing that your word carries weight. And I feel like trust and credibility are earned the same way with our kids. It's no different. Every time we do what we say we're going to do, we reinforce that we're reliable. And every time we don't, even in the smallest ways, it leaves a crack. And those small cracks over time erode trust. Just like a slow leak damages a foundation, those little broken promises slowly weaken connection. And I think we all do this, often without even thinking about it. I don't think it's malicious. We're not lying or fabricating the truth on purpose. I think more times than not, we say things to buy ourselves time, to soothe in the moment, or because we're multitasking our way through the chaos. But to our kids, those little moments add up. Every in a minute that turns into never, every promise that we forget becomes one more data point about whether they can trust our word. Here are a few ways I think we unintentionally dishonor our word. I think it happens to all of us. Think about when your kiddo says, "Mommy, watch me," and you say, "Okay." But as soon as they're about to start their big moment, maybe it's that cartwheel or that twirl, or they're going to jump off the couch, your attention drifts back to whatever it is that you were preoccupied with. The dishes, maybe you're cooking dinner, that email, scrolling on your phone. They look up and they see that you're not watching. And you think that they don't notice, but they always notice. Or maybe they're asking, "Mommy, can you come and play with me?" And you answer kind of without even thinking about it. "Oh yeah, hun, in a minute." And then that minute turns into 20. And they quietly learn that in a minute might not mean anything at all. Or maybe they're asking you to read a book and you're kind of just trying to buy yourself some time. And you say, "Hun, we will read a story right before bedtime." But by the time bedtime rolls around, everyone's exhausted from a long day and you skip it just this once. One skipped story turns into 2 and 3 and 4. And suddenly just this once starts to sound familiar. Or maybe they're asking to go to the park and today just isn't a good day. So you say, "We'll go to the park tomorrow or this weekend." But then between errands, unexpected plans, or the weather, it just quietly disappears. They might not mention it, but they remember. And I think the sneakiest one of all is I'll be right there. But then something else pulls our attention. We get distracted by something and they wait and they wait. And eventually they just stop asking because right there doesn't seem to mean right now. Individually, none of these moments feel big, but stacked together, they send a message. And that message is that mom's words don't carry weight. They don't always line up with her actions. And that's how those tiny cracks start to form. And then I think there's the other side of this, which is the discipline side. I can literally hear myself in the bathtub after a long day. I've asked the kids to get out of the tub a couple different times. They're splashing water everywhere. I'm exhausted. It's been a long day at work. It's getting late. And I snap and I say something like, Liv, if you don't get out of the tub, you are never having dessert again, or you will never get to watch TV again. I think we've all said something like this in the heat of the moment, but deep down, we know it's not true. We're not actually going to ban dessert or TV forever. And when we don't follow through, we teach them that our words aren't real and that we don't mean what we say. If the consequence isn't something that you can actually enforce, why are we even saying it? So I've been trying to say something more realistic like, hey, hun, if you don't get out of the bathtub, we are not going to have time for story. So you've got to make a choice. Do you want to stay in the bath a little bit longer or do you want to read a book before bed? That's more realistic. That's executable. And that's how they learn that our word matters. I think this is especially important if your kids are ignoring your requests, they're kind of disobeying, they're resisting your instructions, or just tuning out completely. I think in those scenarios, it's so easy to label them as defiant. But I would just encourage you to pause and ask yourself, have I connected with them lately? Have I slowed down enough to see them, to be with them, to spend time with them? Or am I kind of just managing them like a checklist? Because if your kids aren't listening, it's usually not a discipline problem, it's a connection problem. Trust and obedience are built on connection. If you want your kids to listen to you more, you need to build more connection. If you want them to respect your boundaries, you need to build more connection. If you want them to trust in you, to confide in you, to open up when they're scared or when they've made a mistake, you need to build more connection. I think about this a lot when I imagine Grady and Liv's future when they're teenagers and they find themselves in a situation where they don't feel comfortable. Maybe they're at a party and they've had too much to drink, or maybe they're feeling pressured to do something that they don't want to do. I hope that they know that they can call me because when they're older, I will say, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you don't feel safe, you can call me. You will not be in trouble. I will not yell at you. I will be there for you. But here's the thing. If I want them to believe me when I say that, I have to prove it now. Because if I've spent years saying one thing and then doing the complete opposite or just not doing it at all, why would they trust that I'll show up then? And maybe in this situation, it's like, yeah, I'm obviously going to show up for my kids. If they call me and they say, hey, I've had too much to drink, please come and pick me up. But are they really going to believe that I'm not going to punish them or discipline them or scold them and ask them 1,000 questions? Because when you've honored your word in the small ways, when you've said, I'll play with you in 5 minutes, and you actually did, when you've said, I'll be right there, and you actually were, you've built a foundation of trust that stretches into those big, scary, high stakes moments down the road. So that years from now, when they're faced with a decision that could change everything, when they have to choose whether to call you or to hide, they'll remember mom always kept her word. And that's when every small investment that you make in these younger years pays off. But if you haven't, if you've broken your word over and over, even unintentionally, do you really think they're making that call? Maybe they believe you'll come and get them. but they'll also believe that they'll be punished for being honest, that you're going to ask them a million questions, that they're going to be grounded, whatever it is. And that fear, it's enough to stop them from reaching out. Those are the favors we're calling in down the road. Every promise we keep now, every time we follow through, we're putting deposits into the trust account that we will pull from later. And one day when it matters most, that trust could be what keeps them safe. All those small moments, the promises kept, the follow throughs, the quick repairs, they're the bricks that build trust. I think of trust like a wall, like one that's built brick by brick. Every time you honor your word, you lay a brick. When you say, hey, hon, let me just finish writing this email and then I'll come play with you. And then you actually go play, that's one brick. When you're about to leave for a week-long work trip and you tell them, Mommy will be back in a few days, I will FaceTime you every night. And you actually deliver on that, that's another brick. Every time you say, I'll be right there, hon, and you show up a minute later, that's another brick. Each brick builds security, safety, and belief in you. So that one day when you say, I will always be here for you, they'll believe you. Not because you said it, but because you've proven it. Trust, it isn't built in these big emotional moments. It's built in the small, quiet, consistent ones. And let's be honest, as moms, we're juggling a million things. Sometimes we make promises with the best intention and life gets in the way. The meeting runs late, you miss a practice or a game or a recital, someone gets sick. But here's the truth. Kids don't just remember what we say, they remember what we do. And when there's a gap between our words and our actions, it confuses them. It teaches them that they can't count on us. Not because we're bad moms, but because we're overextended. So instead of saying yes, reflexively pause. Say what you can honor. Instead of, in a minute, try, I want to watch you. Give me 2 minutes to finish this task, and then I'll come and sit with you. And then follow through. Or if you truly can't right now, if right now just isn't the right time, be honest. Hey, hon, I really want to play with you, but I can't right now. Can we spend some time together after dinner? And then make sure you deliver on that. This small adjustment not only models integrity, it builds emotional safety. Your kids start to learn when mom says something, I can believe her. Here's what so many of us live in. We want to be reliable at work, responsive to our teams, available to our kids, present in our marriages, all at the same time. But when we overpromise in any direction, we underdeliver somewhere else. And often the people who get the short end of the stick are the ones that we love the most. This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because honoring your word doesn't mean saying yes more often. It means saying yes less often, but meaning it every single time. Here's a few tangible ways you can start honoring your word, even in the chaos of motherhood. The first is to just be realistic with your yeses. If you can't follow through, say no up front. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver. Next, use specific language. I think instead of in a minute, say after I finish loading the dishwasher. Specific timeframes create clarity and accountability. I think this one's big. Circle back when you miss the mark. If you forget or get distracted, own it. Tell them, hey, sweetie, I told you I would play with you and I didn't. That wasn't fair to you. Can we do something together now? Repairing builds trust more than pretending it didn't happen. Another one is, I think about the bathtub analogy. We've got to align our consequences with our capacity. Don't threaten things that you can't enforce. Choose realistic, follow-through consequences that teach, not scare. And then notice the small asks. All of those little, mama, watch me moments are the foundation of lifelong connection. When they invite you in, treat it as sacred. They're not asking for perfection. They just want your presence. Here's the truth. Every time you honor your word, you're making a deposit into your child's trust bank. And those deposits compound. Each one says, you can count on me. What I say matters. You matter. And when that foundation is strong, it pays dividends for years. In those teenage years, the tough conversations, the big transitions, because trust isn't built overnight. It's built over time, one honored word at a time. So this week, I would just encourage you to slow down, say less, mean more. And when you say, I'll be right there, be there, because that's the habit that builds trust. And that trust, that's what builds connection. And that connection, it's literally everything. If this episode hit home, if it resonated with you, share it with another mom who's craving some more connection with her kids. It's the quickest way this podcast will grow and reach more moms who need it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you in the next episode.